Welcome to Digging Deeper. I'm Carolyn Ribeiro. Queensland-based copper and gold explorer Cannindah Resources has been busy progressing work at its Mt Cannindah project while also reviewing strategies for its Piccadilly project. To fill us in on how the company is tracking, I'm joined by Cannindah's Executive Chairman Tom Pickett. Tom, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Talk us through the latest results from Mt Cannindah.
We've been drilling now for some time, for a couple of years, and that drill program has been, in a sense, to identify new areas of interest, but also expand upon what the previous known jaw was. So we've now extended the strike length of what was known to be there, and we've also extended the depth extent of what was thought to be there. We approached that slightly differently in more recent times by focusing in the southwest, and we've identified some very interesting gold hits in the more recent results, and we've been getting consistently up sort of over 100-metre intercepts with around about 1% copper equivalent grades now for the last few holes. In fact, I think there's only 5 that have been, and we're up to 21, there's only 5 that have been less than 100-metre intercept, which has been a fantastic result so far.
And how do you see the gold story unfolding as work progresses?
It's interesting because there's sort of two elements to that. One is that it's nice to see gold from surface, and I think it was hole 13 that got 24 metres at 2.1 grams per tonne from surface. So that was interesting to see towards the sort of southern end. But then as we developed the deeper holes to the north, we started to see this gold trend, which was linking up through consistently at around about between 400 and 500 metres depth along a number of other holes. So there was this gold zone that was previously unrecognised that we've identified as well, which is nice to see. The important part about Cannindah, I think, is that we've got world-class holes, world-class intercepts, I should say, that have been pretty, I guess, very successful from surface. So hole 3, for example, was a 762-metre hole. It was sort of our favourite hole so far, 762-metre hole, and 493 metres of that got over 1% copper. So those types of things is what we want to see, and that had a bit of gold in it as well.
So what are the company's plans to expand Mt Cannindah, particularly where you are seeing those higher grades close to surface?
The current plan is that we're going to continue to push to the southwest, which has opened up some interesting copper and gold zones that were sort of into the unknown, so to speak, which is obviously expanding size and improving on the resource size. That has also identified some potential porphyry affinities at depth. So what you would ideally like to see in any project is you get some nice grades from surface down into a sort of identifying a potential open cut possibility, and then a larger bulk tonnage operation that could be done underground after that, which is going to open up a significant mine life over decades, particularly if you can open up hundreds of millions of tonnes at a sort of a more, it's a lower grade proposition, but the higher tonnage is certainly does make it attractive to larger players as well.
So are you quite confident then that the project is on track to becoming a mine?
Yeah, look, I think it could be an open cut mine as we sort of sit today. We've got a bit of work to do in terms of improving that. We've started drilling over 500 metres away toward Cannindah East from where the previous drilling had been, which, when you think about it, could expand size quite considerably, particularly if there's some more interesting hits at surface over there, and then we could potentially link that up. So yeah, I do absolutely think it could be a mine one day, and it's probably not only me that thinks that. These things, the high quality projects like ours are very, very sort of rare at the moment. So yes, I believe it will be a mine one day, and I think that some of the big mining companies around the world that are hunting for these types of things also think the same thing.
With copper, and specifically potential porphyry systems, is grade king or is it size and scale?
What you do like to see is the nice high grade from surface, but that traditionally with porphyry systems doesn't occur. You've got a lower grade, sort of more bulk tonnage proposition that you're hunting. So anywhere between sort of 0.3% and 0.5% copper is really sort of the ideal space. Higher the better, but if you can open up hundreds of millions of tonnes and get decades of mine life, particularly when you're coming into an environment where demand for copper is huge. The inventories around the world are at historic lows, and a lot of the projects are coming off stream rather than new ones coming on. So you've got historically low access to copper, and you've got unprecedented demand. So that makes it fairly interesting for us.
Speaking of supply deficits of copper, how important from a global perspective would you say it is for companies like Cannindah to pursue building scale with such porphyry style deposits?
These types of projects are fairly rare to come by at the moment. There's not a lot of new projects coming on to satisfy the copper demand. And really, if you can get a copper project of any scale, it's going to need to be done because there's such a supply gap that needs to be filled over the next decade. Something in the order of $23 billion a year over the next decade needs to be spent in exploration activity in copper to try and get anywhere close to the Paris Agreement targets that have been set. So, how do we sort of fit within that? I would say we're very lucky because we're on an existing mining lease. We don't have to convert to a mining lease, so that can shave years off approval processes, etc. So, how we fit in, we're going to do our best to keep improving the size and the scale of the project, and then that will obviously bode well for the demand that comes from copper.
On that point, how does Cannindah compare to its peers and fit into this competitive landscape?
The thing that sets us apart, there was a few things that set us apart, and one is that we're getting consistent hits, world-class intercepts from surface. So a lot of other projects, you would need to get through hundreds of meters of cover to get down to the good rocks. In at least the area that we're drilling into now, we're seeing from surface, we're getting very interesting grades and down to considerable depths. So hole 11, for example, was 1,022 meters long. If you aggregated that entire hole, you would still get 0.5% copper out of that, and that's an amazing intercept when you think about it that way. So from our perspective, we're getting good hits from surface. But the other thing is, like I mentioned, we're already on a mining lease, so we have the ability to, in a sense, shave off years of regulatory application process. The other thing is that we're only 100 k's from the port of Gladstone, so we've got sort of all the boxes ticked from a logistics perspective, and we're sort of moving forward in increasing our size. So we've got size on our side. We know there's copper, we know there's gold, and we're just hunting more as we go. So I think from the perspective of us compared to others, we're in a great spot. Queensland's a very good jurisdiction, and we've got consistently huge hits, so can't complain.
And how are things tracking at Piccadilly? The company's quarterly activities report mentioned gaining some historical drilling data. What have you gathered from that?
Piccadilly is an interesting one. It's a pure gold play, and it's nice. It's an intrusive related gold system, and these things typically occur in clusters. So we went or set about to finding new ground in and around that area, and our geological team identified some ground that they were aware of from some work they did decades ago, and we had a look at some historical drill hits within that zone. And I get excited when you see high grade stuff, and there was some hits in there over a couple of meters at over 100 grams per ton gold. Now that's significantly high grade, so I went, well, we better go and investigate that a little bit further. So we then had a look at a bit of the geochemistry that was around there available to us, and the regional magnetics and other things. And all of that kind of put together a picture that we might be onto another intrusion over there. So we made application for that ground. We were granted that ground. More recently, we've made application for, or provided notices of entry, and we've got some guys having a look at on surface sort of exploration activity with the geochem, and we'll see where that leads us for a drill program soon.
Well, thank you for your time today, Tom.
No worries, thank you.